To understand Java OOPS, the basic things that we need to aware of is first print syntax, that is system.out.println is allowed where system.out.println, this print syntax, where it is allowed to write. Can we write inside a class body outside a method? Is it allowed or not allowed? No, it is allowed to write only inside a method, only inside a method. So this is the one clarity we need to have. Yeah. Second, so when it comes to methods, what is method signature? What is a method signature? In a method syntax, that is access modifier, return type, method name of programmer choice, then parenthesis, and then the curly braces. So in this entire method syntax, the method signature is nothing but the name and parameters together. This is called as method signature. And from now onwards, I'll be using method signature is the term most. So that means the method name and parameters together I am discussing about it. It's not only name or not only parameters. So this is one more terminology. Yeah. So then next, inside method body, every line of code has to end with inside method body. Every line of code has to end with semicolon. This is one more point to remember. Then the next one, what is object syntax? Object creation. What's object syntax? Class name, then space, object reference name or variable name simply, variable name, then equals new, then the same class name, then parenthesis and semicolon. Yeah. So this is the prerequisite that we should be aware of it, especially this method signature. I hope everybody knows and everybody remembers this. Yeah. So based on this information, let us move to our first concept of this object-oriented programming features. So that is, so before I say what is the topic, for example, there are some people, some students are there. For example, there is a student one. Generally, what's the student data? Student will have a name. Then the student will have something, yeah, mobile number or phone. Or student will have some subject. Let me take these three. Like this, assume that here there are some 10 students are there. S1, S2 with same data and S3 also with same data only. Yeah, so like this, there are multiple students are there. Like 10 students are there. A student 10, same data of name and then phone number, not subject. How do you store this student data, each student data in a Java program with previous knowledge? How do you store this 10 students data in a Java program? Yeah, you have to respond. Right or wrong, you leave it. You have to respond. How do you store this data? Yeah, so first step, for example, to store first student name, what will do? String, variable name itself. Name, first student, therefore name 1 equals, assume that some name called say Mohan. Then phone number, how do you store? Long, it's not integer. Long, say phone or phone number equals some 10-digit number followed by ends with L at the last, then semicolon. How to store subject? String type. So string, the subject of first student. That's why I'll use sub1 equals in double quotes say Java. This is the first student data. Like this, 10 students data will write. Yes or no? Then in a company there are 100 employees. How do you write it? Use arrays. Array is of similar type or different type also. But here string is name is string and phone is long. How to use arrays? We can't use. Correct or not? And if you say that, okay, I'll create every student variable name one, then name two, name three, then phone one, phone two, phone three, like that subject one, subject two, subject 10. That's one more possibility, right? So when we store this data and when JVM execute this line of code, this will be occupied in the memory or not? Yes, it will be occupied. But even though I have 10 students data, is it is there any guarantee that we have to use or we will be using the data? No, then unnecessary the data is loaded into the memory, it's unnecessary memory consumption. Even though this is one of the approach, but if JVM execute this code, the data will occupy memory. Whether we are going to use all this data or not, that's the secondary point. So, but memory consumption is going to happen. Yes or no? That is one more problem. If it is not required, why to store it and why to consume the memory unnecessarily? That's one more problem. Yeah. So to avoid all such concerns, what is the best thing? Whenever it is required, then only create the object. Then only create the object and load data into the memory and use data in our Java program. So this is better approach or not? Instead of storing everything by fixed without using or not using. So if you store that, there is unnecessary memory consumption. But whenever it is required, then only you create the object, then load data and use the data accordingly. So that is a best approach, best programming approach. Then which concept will fulfill this type of requirement? Is it methods? Is it arrays? No. Yeah. So in Java, we have a concept called as constructor. Constructor is a concept. Yeah. So first, in any interview, what is the definition that they expect? For every such type of thing, I'm going to write the proper meaningful definitions. So these things you can use in your interviews also. Okay. So I'll improvise. Okay. So today we'll be learning something. Then tomorrow I may write construct definition once again. I'll clearly tell you which is finalized. So the definition of a constructor is, so instead of writing one, two, three paras or two, three lines, I'm keeping it point wise so that you can remember it easily. Yeah. Constructor is a block of code. Constructor is a block of code like a method. Constructor is like a method, like a method. Yeah. Then second property point is constructor is used for initializing the objects. Yeah. Or initialize variables or initialize, constructor is used for initializing instance variables. More clearly, instance variables only. This is the definition of a constructor or meaning of a constructor. Constructor is like, it's a block of code. It is like a method only, like a method, not exactly method. Then it is used for initializing the objects or it is used for initializing the instance variables. So I'll improvise this definition slowly as we move forward in the constructor concept. Then since it is like a new concept, then what is the syntax of it? Yeah. The syntax of a constructor is access modifier, then space, class name, parenthesis, data type, variable 1, comma, data type, variable 2, and so on. Then open curly brace, closed curly brace, then some lines of code. This is the syntax of a constructor. But here, am I giving any choice for us to write constructor name of our choice? So previously, everywhere I'm using angular brackets when it comes to programmer choice. But here, am I using angular brackets for class name? No, because constructor will be inside a class. So here, what is the class syntax? access modifier, class keyword, then followed by programmer defined class name. Class name, then open curly brace of class, closed curly brace of the class. Then inside a class only, a constructor will be there. And here, whatever is a class name, that should be same name as a constructor name also. We can't write different. We can't write different. Am I clear? So from this definition, there are some properties that we can write. So there are some properties to follow. What is the first property? If you observe, constructor name has to be same as the class name. So that is the first property. Constructor name should be same as class name. Constructor name should be same as class name. Yeah. Next property. What is constructor definition that we have seen? Constructor is like a method. Method will have what? Method will have a, in method header, what will be there? Access modifier, then followed by return type, right? Do we have any return type for constructor? No, only access modifier. Then like a method name, class name is there, but do we have any return type there? So that's the second property. Constructor should not have a return type. Constructor should not have return type. So first, let me teach you the straight away subject. Then I'll only cross question you everything. You don't bother about it. Just understand and remember the points. And any doubts, please ask. And any question, please respond. So this is the second property. Then like this, a class can have how many constructors? Like a class can have how many methods? Only one method? Two methods only? No, n number of methods, right? So we discussed maybe area and perimeter in one class. So that doesn't mean that it is only two methods. Okay, we can take any number of methods in a class. Similarly, the next point is a class can have n number of constructors. Yeah. The third property. So I hope you understand with numbering. Third property is a class can have n number of constructors. A class can have n number of constructors, but a condition is there with different signature. Different signature. That's why I said I'll be using this term, method signature, constructor signature. So what is this different signature? I'll discuss with one example. Yeah. So these are the, what is a constructor? Then what is the syntax of a constructor? What are some properties of a constructor? If any interviewer is asking, you write this, you say this definition, you write this syntax with one example. Instead of class name, some class name A, then here public A, then some data types and all, and some properties. If you get a question of what is constructor, this entire slide you have to say. Yeah. So till this point of time, am I clear? Anyone has any questions? Sure. Sure. Yeah. So then we will see the properties of this with example or with syntax. So first, if you take one class public, class name A. Inside this class, previously we know that a class will have variables and methods. Now we are going to add new thing called as a class will have a constructor also. Yeah. Then inside this class, if you take a constructor, what's the syntax of the constructor? Access modifier. So here, in place of access modifier, what is allowed to use? Sorry? Yeah, public, protected, default, private. So we can use any of this in place of this access modifier. Same as like access modifier of a class or method, we can use public, then protected. I'm writing in descending order of the access level. Then default, then followed by private. Default is not a keyword. Outside a switch block is not a keyword. Outside interface also, it's not a keyword. Okay, only we should not write anything that becomes default. So this, then in place of this access modifier, we can use any of these one. Then here I am going to use public. Public is the access modifier. Then followed by class name. What's the class name? A. So here also we have to have a constructor name as A. Then parameters. Then the constructor body. Is it correct? Yes or no? Yes. So here in place of data types and variable names, is it mandatory? No, no parameters. In method also we can have method with no parameters, right? Similarly, here also constructor with no parameters is possible. This is the first question. First one. Yeah. Then next, constructor name should be same as a class name is my first property. And here is the syntax for that. Then what's second property that we have listed? Constructor should not have a return type, correct? Then here we are not writing any return type. What's third property? A class can have any number of constructors, but different in signature. So that point I'm going to write here. So first, if we have one more constructor in the class, what's the syntax? Access modifier. The next class name only. Therefore, we have to write A or different. A only. Then next, open and close parenthesis. Then the body. Is it correct? Is it correct or wrong? So what is the signature of the previous constructor? What's the name? A. How many parameters are there? 0. Then here also, what is the name of the constructor? A. How many parameters? 0. Is there any different from these two constructors? No. So therefore, this is not allowed. It is because of same signature. But what's the condition? For a class to have multiple constructors, the signature has to be different. So here 0 parameters. Here I'll take 1 parameter. Int x. Data type variable name. Then can we have one more constructor with a different signature? Yes, we can have. What is that? Public A, then parenthesis. So here int x, int space x comma, int space y. Correct or not? Yes or no? Yes. Then here I don't have a space. In next other side also I'm writing in the same A class body. I'll close it later. Here I am closing it. Then here I'm going to write one more constructor. Since a class can have n number of constructors, I'm taking one more constructor, the name is A only, and here I'll take string space s comma float space f. Correct or not? All of you. So here how many parameters? 2. One is int x, one is int y. Here how many parameters? 2. Yeah. So then can we have same number of parameters? Same number of parameters? Yes. So then if I write one more, public A, for example, int space I, comma, int space j. Is it possible? Yes or no? No. What's the reason? First one, 0 parameters. Second one, 1 parameters. Third one, 2 parameters. Fourth one also, 2 parameters. Fifth one also, 2 parameters. Then this third, fourth, fifth are possible, or anything is mistake there? Or what do you think? Fourth one, third one, 2 parameters. What are the type of parameters? Int x, comma, int y. What is fourth one? String, comma, float. Is it same as any of the previous? No. But here int, comma, int. Is it same as previous? Then there is a problem. So this is a difference. It's not a different in signature. It is same in signature. So this int, comma, int, this int, comma, int is same. So therefore, this is syntactically wrong. It's not allowed. Yeah. Then one more last example so that you'll get complete knowledge. So that is what is the meaning of n number of constructors. So public A, then here I'll take float f, comma, string yes. Yes, this is possible. Yes or no? Now you observe fourth one and sixth one. Same or different? Yeah. So here is a string, comma, float. Here float, comma, string. Same or different? Yeah. So it is possible. It's different. It is possible. Even in methods also, A method which takes string input, float input is different from float input and string input. So do we pass in the same order? For example, if a method is there, method yum is there, and which is taking one integer parameter and one is float parameter, or I'll take some character parameters, ch. Then while calling this method, can we call like this m of 10 comma a? Correct or wrong? Correct only. What is the first parameter? Int. Second parameter? Character. Are we following this order or not? Yes. But same method, can we call like this? m of a comma 10? Yes or no? In, input is different. Order is different, right? So therefore, in methods also this concept is applied. Even in constructors also this is applied. Those two are two different methods. And similarly here also, those two are two different constructors are different in signature. Yeah. So then with all this understanding, the property that I am discussing here is the constructor properties syntax. Constructor properties syntax wise. What is the meaning of different in signature? I used one term called as different signature constructors can be allowed in a class. There are 3 to 4 things to remember. What's the first thing? Different signature means different number of parameters. Different number of parameters. So here how many parameters? 0. And here 1. Here 2. Next we can have 3, 4, 5 like this. That is all comes under different number of parameters. What second one? Different type of parameters. Different type of parameters. So what is the first? Different type means here nothing, here int, here. So then I can have one more constructor called public a and here float f. Is it correct? Is it allowed or not allowed? Allowed only? Yes or no? So previously here we have one parameter, but what's the type of it? Int. Here also we have one parameter, but what's the type? Float. Is it different or not? Yes, different types of parameters also is another meaning of a different signature. Then the third one, different order of parameters also. Different order of parameters. That's what the last example which we discussed here. Here what's the order? String float. Here what's the order? Float string. So therefore, different signature means any one of these properties, if it satisfies, then such type of multiple constructors are allowed in a class body. Huh. Here also same. Here also same. If we need more than 4 parameters, so here we will be going with them directly. We don't go with array approach because the purpose of method is to perform logical task. The purpose of constructor is to initialize the objects. Yeah. So here we can take anything. So his question is, in method syntax, we discussed about maximum 4 are allowed. If we need more than 4, we have to go for alternate concept. But when it comes to constructor, the number of parameters, we will be writing as many as we want. And frankly speaking, we don't write any code. It is Eclipse will do the job. If at all I want to create constructor for 10 parameters, then constructor Eclipse will create the constructor. So we will be using some shortcuts. That's all. We are not going to type the code. Yeah. So am I clear with this? All of you. These properties and especially, so here I'm using some term called a class can have n number of constructors with different signature. What is the meaning of this different signature? So I gave the example, then I gave the points also. Am I clear? Yes. Yeah. So then if a class is having a method, how did we access? Then if a class is having a constructor, how did we access the constructor? That's our next simple concept for us to know. So first I'll go with method concept. We know this so that we can compare and understand. So for example, public class, some square class, everybody knows this. Then public void area is a method which takes one parameter called side. And what's the logic of it? Side into side is the logic. Then here, integer kind of area variable. Since return type is a void type, print the area then end of the method, end of the class. So how do we access this from main method? From main method, so we have to create the, what do you have to create? We have to create the object, correct or not? So, so how to create the object? Square sum s equals new square of parenthesis semicolon. So then followed by, yeah, s dot area method we have to call and give some input. That's it. So this is what we discussed. How do we access a method to execute from main method? We have to create the object. Yes or no? Then here, the same example if we implement to the constructor, there is a class called public class A. Inside this A class A, what's the constructor syntax? Access modifier public constructor name A. Then let me take one integer type of parameter. Then inside this one, sample print statement I am using. It is never recommended to write a normal code in constructor body. So just for our understanding, I am taking this one print of some A class constructor is my message. A class constructor, then end of this class. Now, how do we execute this constructor? So to execute this method, we have followed one approach of object creation, then method calling concept. Correct or not? Now, how to you execute this constructor? I want to see output as A class constructor. What to do? So first, there is one more class called test class, which will have a main method called public static void main. And here we know that it is string square brackets args. Then inside this one, what we supposed to do? Yeah, what is supposed to do? Create the object? Yes or no? So here class name A, then object reference name, let me take some small a, equals new A parenthesis semicolon A dot, yeah, A dot what? Yeah. So here one important point to remember. So far, I am saying this as only object, but it is actually a constructor call. In our square class also, there is a constructor. Are we writing? We are not writing. Did we write any constructor so far in our previous classes? No, but still we are using some syntax here. So similarly here also, what I am using? The class name, object reference name equals to new keyword, then class name. Then followed by here, what I'm using? Parenthesis. Does it mean with some parameters or with no parameters? So only if you are leaving empty, means we are calling something with parameters or without parameters? Without parameters only, no. Now here, can I call only area? Parenthesis and leave it. Can I call only area? No, because area method is expecting one parameter. So therefore, we have to pass the type of parameters integer value. We must pass it. Otherwise, this is syntactically wrong. Similarly, here also, what we are doing this one is, this is a constructor call actually. This is a constructor call. Then do we have a constructor in class A with no parameters? No, we have what? Parameter type of constructor, which is integer type, but do we have any no parameters? Therefore, if you are just writing like this, then it is a compile time error. Compile time error. Then what is the thing we have to change it? At the time of object creation itself, it is nothing but there is a constructor call is involved. Yeah. So then that should match. That constructor call should match to the type of constructor that we have in a class. What do you have? Integer type of constructor. Then the correction is 10 or any dummy integer also. We can write it there. Then it is a proper object creation. Yeah. Then if we execute, do we get this output? Yes or no? No. So if we only create the object, then do we get output? No. What we have to do? We have to call the method. Then only the method will be executed. Then here, how do we call this constructor now? We have created the object and which is matching to the signature of the constructor, that is name and integer type of parameter. Therefore, name and integer type of value is passed. Now, how do you call that constructor? Yeah. A dot again A we have to call? No. Then what is yes? So here, next important point, the constructor call is a implicit call. Implicit call means as a programmer, explicitly we have to call a method. So this is called as explicit call. Means we have to write some line of code so that explicit call. So we have to write some line of code, then only method will be executed. But for a constructor, do we need to write any other line of code? No. So this is object creation. Object creation itself is a implicit constructor call also. At the same time, both will happen. So object creation is an implicit call of constructor. Implicit means we no need to call constructor separately. Method has to be called separately. So indirectly, I'm telling the difference of methods and constructor also. It is one more interview question. Constructor is like a method, then what's the difference? Yeah. Method should be called explicitly. Constructor is a implicit call. Method will have a return type. Constructor will not have a return type. So these points to be remembered. Yeah. So object creation is an implicit call of constructor. It means if you just write this line of code and execute the program, we are going to get the out whatever the code that is written in constructor will be executed by JVM. Understood? So now onwards, so this is object creation because of new keyword. And this square of parenthesis is a constructor call itself. Even in our basic coding class also, it is constructor only. But if I use constructor there, without understanding, we'll be confused. That's why from now onwards, I'll be using that as a constructor call only. Yeah, and which is implicit call. We no need to separately call the constructor. When we create the object itself, constructor also will be executed. That's what the meaning of it. Explicit, extra line of code. Implicit, we no need to write extra line of code. Understood? Yeah. So then let me go with one more property. Then we'll go for the execution of the same thing. Okay. Then what's next property that I have used? Did you remember what is constructor? Anybody, what is constructor definition? Constructor is a block of code or which is like a method, and the constructor is used for initializing the objects or initializing the instance variables. Then three properties I have written. Can you please tell me? What's first property? Constructor name must be same as a class name. Next, constructor should not have a return type. Then a class can have n number of constructors. So here I'm using one more thing from the properties only. Can a constructor have return type? Can a constructor have return type is my question. In these two questions are there actually. If you understand more clearly, you'll understand two questions. Can a constructor have return type? Yes or no? Please answer yes or no. The answer is, as per our previous property, no is the answer. Yes. Yeah, the straight away answer is constructor can have a return type. No. But if I forcefully give the return type, whenever I'm writing some constructor in a Java program, I'll forcefully I give a return type to a constructor. Then is it a compile time error or will it accept? So here, the next question, what will happen? What will happen if we give return type to constructor? So for example, there is a class public class, some class name A only. Inside this class, I am taking a constructor. Please tell me the syntax. Access modifier, then followed by class name. Wantedly, I'm leaving some space. Class name, then some parameters or no parameters of our choice, then followed by constructor body with open and close curly brace. This is a constructor. Now here, Previously we discussed that constructor should not have a return type. Then if we forcefully, I'll give some return type, void. So that's what my second question is. What will happen if we have a return type to constructor? Then what will happen? Is it constructor compile time error? No. Then what will happen? Constructor will become a method. The answer, this is a question. This is the answer. This is again a question. The answer is no compile time error, because this people will confuse us in interviews. No compilation error or compile time error, but constructor will become method. Constructor will become a method. Am I clear? Any confusions, anybody? Any confusions? No. Then here I said there are two questions which are involved in this. The next question is, can method name be same as class name? Can we have method name same as class name? Yes or no? Class name is square, my method name also square. Allowed or not allowed? But here what is the class name? A. And what is this is now? It's a constructor, it's a method. Is it a constructor or a method? Method. What's the name of the method? Is it same as a class? Possible or not possible? Come on, respond. That's my question. The question is, can a method name be same as a class name? Yes or no? So here we are saying no compilation error. It means it is allowed. Then it is possible. Understood. But is it recommended? No. Class name is specifically reserved for constructor name only. But we can take method name as the same as a class name, but that's unprofessional way of coding. It is reserved for constructor. Yeah. So just for question and answer purpose, can a method name be same as a class name? Yes, but strictly not recommended. Strictly not recommended. What's the reason? The class name is specifically allotted to constructor, not for methods to use. Then if method name is A, constructor name also A, how do you call? Then there is ambiguity. That's the reason it is syntactically yes, but strictly not recommended. Am I clear with this, all these properties? Yeah. Then we'll go to Eclipse and we'll see all these points. So here I'll create one folder where I'll be discussing everything inside the same. So I'll create a new Java project. I'll name this as Java. Oops, no space. And we have to follow some naming standards. And then followed by inside this project, right click on this SRC. I'll go for a new package. I'll name the packages, say com dot visible campus is our institute's website dot constructor is a predefined keyword or not? Yes or no? No, it's not a predefined keyword. Constructor is a concept. Inside this package, I'll be executing all constructor related programs. To start with, inside this package, I'll go to new, I'll take a class. So inside this class, I'll take a constructor demo. Constructor demo. And I'm not selecting main method. Can we type main method on our own later? If at all I want? Yes, we can always type. So first I'll take this class. So this is a class. Inside this class, what is the constructor syntax? Access modifier, public. Constructor name should be same as a class name. So what is the class name? Constructor demo. Then open and close parenthesis, semicolon. Sorry. Then the constructor body. So this is one constructor. With arguments or without arguments? Constructor without arguments, it's called as. Then in one class, how many constructors are possible? Any number of constructors, correct or not? Then I'll copy the same thing, I'll paste it here. Is it accepted? No. What's the reason? Yeah, so a class can have any number of constructors, but what's the condition? Different signature. Then the different signature means, can I go with one parameter here of my choice? Accepted? Yes. Then I'll take the same constructor once again. Then now accepted? No. Can I change the parameter type? Accepted? Yes. It means same number of parameters, but different type is also allowed. Then here I'll go for one more constructor. The first, let me change int x comma int y. Is it different from the previous? Yes, it is also accepted. Then next, followed by, I'll take one more constructor. Only I'll change the variable names. Only I will change the variable names. So what are the variable names here? X and y, but here I'll take I and j. Will it be accepted? Yes or no? No. Just by changing the variable names, we can't say different signature from the previous because type matters. So here clearly I have written, if you notice, different type I have mentioned, not different type of variables. Okay, different type of parameters means, so here int comma int is already there, it is not accepted. So then let me take one of this, I'll change to string. Now is it accepted? Yes. Then let me take the one more constructor. So this time, uh, so here first, in the previous one, what is the first one? String. Then here I'll make first one as integer. Then second one, I'll make string. Will it be accepted? Yes or no? Yeah. So this is the meaning of a class can have n number of constructors, but different in signature, different in number, different in type, different in order. If any one has to follow, all three are not possible to follow. Am I clear? Next, what are the different access modifiers that is allowed? Public, then protected also. Is it accepted? Yes. Then what's the other one? Default. Now any access modifier is there? Default is there. Okay. Then next, followed by all are accepted. Are we getting any errors? Oh, this is a warning, it's not error. If you get something in red in color, then there is error. Okay, the warnings you can ignore. So these are the, so access modifier of constructor can be public, protected, default, private, all are allowed. Then third property, a class can have n number of constructors. Then next, what is next point? So here I'll remove this. Previous things I have removed, and here also I'll make public for some reasons. So don't go for private and all as of now, and protected also you don't go for. Only default and also public will be using same as like methods. After we discuss access modifier concept, then we can experiment with all the four things because you'll get some clarity. Yeah, so then followed by, now inside this class, just for our understanding, I'll take one method. Possible or not possible? Yes, a class can have methods also. Then access modifier, return type, method name, and no parameters. Inside this method body, I'll take something called as system.out.println. So here, method. This is the method. Yeah. Then how do we execute this method? I want to see this method as output. In console, output we have to see. What to do? We have to create the object. Where we have to create the object? Inside main method. So we don't have a main method. Can we take main method? What's the syntax? Access modifier, static keyword, the next void return type, then followed by main is a method name, parenthesis, what is that? String, square brackets means array, string array, args, then followed by its body. Then how do you execute this method? Create the object. What's the class name? Create the object. What's the class name? Constructor demo. Then object reference CD for constructor demo. The next new control space, same class name, semicolon. Yeah. So then if we just execute this, if I save this code and if I execute this code, if we execute this code, right click, run as Java application, do we get output as method? I have executed. Anything happen? Nothing happened. Why we are not getting? Because the methods explicitly we have to call. How to call the method? Reference. What's the object reference? CD dot method signature m no inputs semicolon. So now do we get output? Yes or no? So let me save control yes. I right click and go to run as and click on Java application. You can see the output as method. Methods are explicit call. Yes or no? Now what about constructors? Constructor is an implicit call, right? Do we need to call constructor separately? No. So now what I'll do, I'll take out this method call or I'll comment this one. It means it is not there. So after this, now I'm adding something in the constructor demo, but first I'll change the syntax of constructor. Int x. Yeah. So then followed by, so immediately we are getting the one error. Why? Why the error? If you just remember, what did we discuss here? So here why we are getting error? Previously. Only empty parenthesis. Is it allowed? No, because what is constructor signature? A constructor which is expecting one integer type of parameter is there. Similarly, here also a constructor which is expecting one integer type of parameter is there in the demo class or constructor demo class. But are we passing any value? No, at the time of object creation, so the constructor call will be there. The call has to match to the existing constructor type. That's why. So here I'll give something 100. Now is it accepted? Yes. Yes or no? Now if we just execute this line of code, constructor will be executed or not? Object creation itself is a implicit call of a constructor. Therefore, constructor will be executed. Just to prove that, I'm just taking some sample print statement. Print of, so here I'll write just constructor. Let me save. Now, any constructor call is there? No, only object creation is there. Only object creation is there. Then followed by, so let me right click, then go to run as, I'll execute this. We got the output. So it means a method we have to call, then only we'll get the output. But a constructor, if we just create the object with according to the constructor signature, which is matching, then we'll get the constructor body to be executed. So just to prove that, I'm printing it. Clear? So this is about the constructor basics. Do you have any questions? No? Any of you? Online, any questions? Yeah, the next property, can a constructor have a return type? The answer is no. But forcefully, if we give the return type, what will happen? Constructor will become a method. Now here I'll add void. Are we getting any error? No, but we are getting a warning. What's the warning? The method has a constructor name. So do you have or no? Is constructor Eclipse is saying that. Okay. So the method name is same as a constructor name. It is scolding us. Okay. Then so but syntactically possible or not possible? Possible. Then next question also we have one more thing. What is that? Can method name be same as a class name? Yes, it is also proof. So now this is a method. What's the method name? Which is same as a class name only, but not recommended. That's what the warning we are getting. Okay. Now if we execute this program, so here why we are getting error? Now do we have a constructor with zero argument? Sorry, integer argument. That's why we are getting error. Now if you remove, it's fine. Yeah. So there is a constructor in the class. Yeah, that story we'll discuss later, which is also interesting. But here, previously, without this return type, it is a constructor, therefore, so here we have to pass the value. But after we make this return type with some void type, then that is becoming a method. Then where is a constructor with integer type? Constructor with integer type, not there, no. Then remove. This is what we are doing in the previous classes. Understood? Yeah. Am I clear with all properties? Any questions? No. Sure. The next, where I have started, there I am going again. What's the purpose of a constructor? When there are multiple students are there, to store each student data directly, if we store, then that is unnecessary memory consumption because we may not use it. If you are going for other approaches, then it's unnecessary memory consumption. Then constructor is a solution for that. Then when we should go for a constructor? When, or say, how to design a constructor. That's our next concept. How to design. For example, there is a student. Same thing I'm taking. Student will have some data like name and say subject. Okay, I'll take one different type. Same thing we are going to use later also. Say every student will have a name and phone number. Name and mobile or phone. Then student 2 also will have a name and then mobile. Then next here, this is not a student. So let us say something professor. Professor will have a name and a mobile and something as experience. Then can we go for designing a constructor? When to design a constructor and how to design a constructor. That's the concept we are discussing. To store all these three deep people data, student 1, student 2, and professor, can we design a constructor for that? Or can we go for a constructor for that? Yeah. So here, whenever we have to decide to go for a constructor, two or more arguments only for one object. Oh, sorry, two or more objects only, not for a single object. When two or more objects, like all 10 students, all are students only, then all should have a same data like name and mobile, name and mobile, name and mobile for 10 different students. So then only for multiple objects with similar data, then only we have to go for constructor. But if any one object is different from that, can we create a constructor for all these 11 objects? It is not a correct way of designing a constructor because here the data is name and mobile number only for all these first 10 objects. But what about this 11th object? Name and mobile number and also one experience is there. Then what will add if you design a common constructor? Student will not have any experience, right? It's a meaningless. Correct or not? That's why. So how to design a constructor or when to design a constructor is multiple objects means at least two or more than two. Multiple objects with similar data. Similar data, then only design a constructor. But not with different data. But not with different data. Clear? Then here in this part, then what is the Java syntax to design a constructor? Where to store name and mobile number of multiple students. That's our next part. So for that, let me take one class. Public class name, class keyword, then followed by student is a class name. Student is a class name. Then inside this student class, for each student, what is the values to be assigned? Some value for name, some value for mobile. At the time of declaration or through constructor? Through constructor only. Can we take name 1 and some A, name 2, B, name 3, 4, something like this? Can we store like that? Then that is not a recommended approach. That is where the problem is, and so constructor is a solution for that. So that's why we have to declare only variables, that's all. So what's the type of this name? String. So inside the student class, data type string, variable name is name itself. then semicolon. We should not assign a value. Then second one, mobile number, some long mobile, then semicolon. This is nothing but declaration of a variables. We should not initialize them. It is not initialization. This is only declaration. This is nothing but declaring the variables. Declaring variables. And more clearly, if you just remember, I have used one statement in constructor definition. What is that? What's the definition of a constructor? Constructor is used for initializing the objects and or instance variables. Constructor is used for initializing the instance variables also. So these variables must be instance type only. Then only constructor can initialize. Otherwise, no. Okay. These are also instance variables. Instance variables. What are instance variables? A variables which are inside a class, outside a method. Okay. As of now, you don't know. Just remember it is instance variables. Yeah. Then after having these instance variables, then we have to go for a constructor. We have to go for a constructor which will initialize these two values only called name and mobile number. Then tell me what's the constructor syntax now? Access modifier. What's the access modifier? Public. Yes. What's the constructor name? Same as class name called student. Then how many parameters this constructor should have? Two parameters. What is the type? One is string and one is long. Therefore, so first I'll take string because name can be assigned through string variable only. So string some n for name. The next comma separation. Second one is a long m for mobile. Then open curly brace, close curly brace as a constructor body. Then how to initialize? The initialization is nothing but take the constructor parameter variable name, that is n. This has to be assigned to instance variable called name. So this n has to be assigned to name variable, then semicolon. Then what second variable? M is a second variable, and then that we assign to mobile. So this is the only purpose of a constructor, means this much only we have to write inside a constructor body. Writing the method logic or writing some print statements, everything is unprofessional. Syntactically possible, but everything is unprofessional except initializing the current class instance variables. We should not write any other code inside a constructor. Understood? Yeah. Yeah. So with this, I will stop for the day. But how do we pass the values and how do we execute this one? That we will see in our tomorrow's class.